Hey parents, I wanted to talk just for a minute about Essay 3. So today in class, we took an issue. We've been talking about this one a lot in class. Should Diggory and Polly take Jadis back to the world between the woods? And so we had already come up with, we talked about should and whether. We actually did not talk about this one in class. I had given them this A&I chart already pre-filled out so that we could go through the practice of sorting, because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how we did that so you could see that they had another model to use at home. Our last model, when we sorted, we cut apart our A&I chart and they used that to physically sort, because sometimes our brains just really need to be able to move it around and play with it. And if they are still doing that, please do that. Let them take their A&I chart, make a copy of it, cut it out, and then physically sort it to put it into groups. So today we sorted, I'm going to show you our finished chart because I want to show you what we did. We sorted using highlighters because honestly, this is how my brain works. So I just showed them how we could go through this. And we started with our very first one. She was causing problems. And we're like, well, that means she was like causing some problems. So we started up here and we put causing harm. And we didn't have these little symbols or anything on there. We just did the colors. And so then we moved to the next one. She was evil. We're like, well, that's not really about causing harm. So we needed to come up with a new group. So we got a different color and we decided to call that group evil. And then we're like, well, wait a minute, traitor. She wanted to take over the world. Well, it could have been causing harm. We decided we would put it with evil because she was a traitor. So we kept it in that same group. And then we're like, well, she might die. Well, it's not really causing harm. It's not really evil. So we started a new one, which we called punishment and death. Now, making up these topics, normally you would do that at the end when you see what they have in common. We went ahead and gave it an overall topic just for the ease of actually sorting. So we went through that and one by one talked about, did it fit in one into our new ones or did we need to make a new one? So like we'd come to a new one. We got down to this, we're like, well, it has nothing to do about causing harm, has nothing to do about being evil, punishment or death, knows magic. All right, we had to do another one. It had to do about right and wrong. So we went all the way down. And you'll notice through this whole thing, there was one that did not belong in any other group, which is actually called doesn't belong because she didn't belong to the world. And we put them into our color groups. Now, all of this is for the affirmative. So this is my affirmative key up at the top. Then we stopped. We used a different key and we did our negative column. So we started off at the top again. Others might learn about magic. All right, we gave it a color. We called it magic. And then we went through and we're like, well, does this one have to do with magic? Yes. Does this one have to do with magic? No. It could damage other worlds. We gave that a different one about damage. So that's what we did. We went through each one at a time to decide, did it fit into one of our groups or did we need to make a new group? Did it fit into those groups or did we need to make a new group? And so as you can see, we went down through this. After we did this, we kind of looked and we went back and we starred all of the groups that had at least 3 items in them, because that means we had at least 3 subproofs in each item. So we looked up at the top and we actually had 3 that had more than 3 things, and the same with the bottom. Then we looked at them and decided, all right, what do we think? Do we think we want to go with affirmative or do we think we want to go with negative? For our class, we decided we were going to go with the affirmative. So we went back to the affirmative and we looked at each group and we decided, okay, causing harm. So we looked at all of our yellows on here that were things that were, or actually we did not do causing harm. We chose evil, knows magic. Oh, we did. I'm sorry. We did causing harm. So we went through and we decided the ones that we thought were the best. We went ahead and starred them because those were going to be our subproofs. And so we did that for each of the colors. For our pink color, we starred our 3 favorite pink ones. And then we put a triangle by our 3 favorite purple ones. And there were only 3. Well, I guess there were 4. And then we ended up, those were going to be our subproofs. Now, we took this information and then we decided, let's go ahead and we'll do our class outline. So this is our class outline for 3. So we started off, notice that the exordium is what we're adding this week, but we did not work on it at this point. So we write our thesis and we chose our thesis was going to be affirmative. So we said Diggory and Polly should, our enumeration, and then our 3 proofs. Now we went on here and we looked at what were the 3 things that we thought that we would use, 1, 2, 3, and then we decided what order we would want to put them in, and they became our 3 proofs. Once you know your first proof, you can go ahead and write it in here, And then you can go down and write it in here. Remember, it's going to be written 3 times. Your main proofs are written 3 times on your outline. So we did that for 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. Then we went back and we looked at the first one, causing harm. So we go back to our outline. We looked at our causing harm or my yellows. So we went back and we looked at what we had starred for yellows, and we decided the order that we thought that we would put them in for our subproofs, and then we wrote them in. Then we started doing this in class and we ran out of time, so we needed to get on to the next portion. So we kind of talked about it, and I told them if they wanted to, they could do it, but they don't have to turn this back in because they need to work on their own. But I wanted you to see the process that we went through to get our ideas from our A&I chart sorted and then turned into our outline. Now, the parts that's missing at the top is the exordium. I want to remind you, please go back to your LTW book. This is the teacher book. It has a section that explains to you all about exordiums. If your student struggles, this and the circ videos will be your best friend. And then in your student's book, and here it is in the teacher's edition, it has a worksheet to help them work through. But all the exordium is it's a way to introduce it. The exordium should be the last thing they work on this week, and they're going to think back to what their idea is, what their thesis is, and then from the thesis, ask 3 questions that would lead you into wanting to understand more, or write 2 things that you could challenge your readers to do, and then provide a quotation of some sort. It could be a quote straight from the book. It could be a quote from the Bible. It could be a quote from another source. So wherever they can find a quote, make sure they list their source and put their quote in. And then bring this next week, and we're going to talk about how you take this and you add it into your paper. So whatever they decide for their exordium, if it's a question or if it's a challenge, it would be easy to write it over here on your outline. If it's a longer quote, you might just put quote Bible. Something like that, just so that they remember what it is they're going to do. Now remember, this is super simple. These are not complete sentences. They're not really even complete ideas. They're just jotting the notes, because when I'm writing my paper, I can go back and look at this to make sure my ideas come out in a little bit more of a fluid way. This is really just helping us to organize our ideas, because remember, this is the week for arrangement. So I hope that helps, and everybody has a great time working on their Essay 3 outline. Thanks.